To you, perhaps let's begin by talking us through the logistics today. What's expected to happen, when and how?
Well, Ayanda, truly a momentous occasion here for both South Africa and Mozambique. Once again, remembering those who were killed in the 1981 Matola raid, when those 13 MK soldiers as well as the Mozambican national were killed by apartheid forces who stormed 3 safe houses. Certainly what you will see here today is this remembrance, a coming together once again of 2 countries. You would recall, of course, that founding manifesto back in 1961 of Mkhonto weSizwe, where they said there comes a time in life of any nation when certainly there remains only 2 choices. One is to submit or to fight, and we shall not submit. Certainly that demonstrating, Ayanda, the fight that South Africa had alongside many other nations that fought together with South Africa and housed its people during very difficult times. You remember some of the countries that came and really assisted South Africa to achieve the non-sexist society that we now all enjoy. Countries such as Zimbabwe, countries such as Lesotho, countries such as Namibia as well. And these are really countries that bore the brunt of the attacks by the apartheid regime. You would recall, of course, given the fact that we're here today to unveil this Matola raid monument that signifies that the apartheid government certainly wants to deal with forces or the MK veterans or the MK soldiers that were in this country at the time, as the fight for or against apartheid certainly was not only in South Africa but beyond the borders. You would recall the Lesotho raid as well, and the constant attacks that were in Zimbabwe as well. So certainly the demonstration here today is to remind us of the long-standing relationship between South Africa and Mozambique, and that certainly South Africa did not achieve the democracy that it now enjoys by simply being on its own. There were many who assisted South Africa to achieve this democracy that we all now enjoy as South Africans. So certainly President Jacob Zuma will also today lay wreaths at the cemetery as well, the Tlangwini cemetery, where those MK soldiers have been buried. Wreaths will be laid there as well by the families as well, before President Jacob Zuma and his Mozambican counterpart come here to unveil certainly what will be a momentous occasion here again, cementing those ties between South Africa and Mozambique, again reaffirming this relationship of liberation sister parties between the African National Congress and Frelimo.
Of course, the role of the frontline states, as you've already alluded to a little bit earlier, quite imperative when it comes to the liberation of South Africa. But relations over the years, when it comes to news headlines, at least, Chriselda, we know they've been the ebb and flow. They've been positives. We have Mama Grasa Mashal, but at the same time, we have negative headlines such as the Matola Massacre case. What have the ordinary Mozambicans said, especially when it comes to South Africa's immigration situation there, the migrants and perhaps xenophobia and the violence thereof? When you speak to ordinary Mozambicans, which I know you do, what have they had to say about relations with South Africa as we speak now?
Well, certainly, Ayanda, it really speaks to one of very unfortunate incidents. You made reference to the Matola Massacre trial. Certainly, that demonstrated a very unfortunate incident in South Africa that took place. But the ordinary Mozambicans that we have spoken to, constantly want to remind South Africans that they've not achieved this democracy on their own, and that it was the homes of ordinary Mozambicans that were opened to South Africans during difficult times, and that the fight for democracy in South Africa didn't just happen there, it happened beyond the borders. So consistently when issues of xenophobia, for example, come up, it's another reminder again for South Africans to take a seat back and certainly say that we should remember that it was not only South Africa or South Africans who fought during that time, but certainly it was countries that accommodated our people during very difficult times. So certainly you mentioned very interestingly, Mama Graça Machel as well, we saw her as we were en route here to Maputo, and we're expecting her to also attend proceedings here. You'd recall how painfully she spoke of those particular incidents, saying that they shouldn't happen again. The one also relating to Emmanuel Josias, which was related, of course, to a criminal matter and not to a xenophobic attack. But certainly, once again, a reminder where South Africans need to take a back seat and then again remember that the fight that was fought was not done so by South Africans alone, and that there are many others who really paid the ultimate price for the democracy that we now see in South Africa, where certainly, you know, the integrity, the non-racial, non-sexist and democratic republic that we see in South Africa is something that we're now all enjoying. You recall, of course, Ayanda as well, just to bring you up to speed, those combatants that were killed were in transit in preparation to infiltrate into South Africa or to operate certainly in the front line to execute their various missions. Very difficult times for South Africa during that. But a constant reminder again, why we are here in Matola, is to remember that all these states had played a pivotal role, and it also suffered the brunt of these attacks by the apartheid regime at the time because of the fact that they were assisting South Africa to achieve certainly what we're all enjoying in South Africa now. So certainly a cementing once again of those relations between these two countries, and certainly a moment to remember that it wasn't achieved all on our own, and there were certainly many other people who came to the party, if I may, to make sure that South Africa is the non-sexist and free democracy that we see here today.
Thank you so much for that update, Chriselda Lewis. Indeed, our freedom was not free.